the Tudor women. A family should love and support each other, delight in relationships with cousins, but for the Tudors, this was rarely to be. Four siblings loved each other, two boys and two girls, laughed, played, enjoyed life, were proud. The oldest brother died young. Being royal, being Tudors, the girls married, became queens. The other boy, Henry, became king. The girls gave birth to children who they loved. Henry, it is said, had a favourite sister. The Tudor Rose Mary was preferred to Margaret. Mary's descendants should have laughed and delighted in being of the royal blood, and enjoyed wealth and privilege. This was not to be. So many were affected by sadness, depression, and even early death. Elizabeth, she who became queen, lived for a time in the shadow of death, a death that could have been ordered by none other than her own sister Mary. Mary Rose would have been horrified to know the fate of her granddaughters, none of whom fared well, as princesses in royalty should, especially the three sisters Grey. Jane, declared queen and manipulated, a young woman of courage and steadfastness, who had been used, was executed, martyred even, while still in her teens, a tragic waste. Catherine, arrested after her marriage and kept in the Tower a prisoner, till she, at a young age too, died, caged like an animal. Many feel that in the end she starved herself to death. Their sister Mary also suffered, separated from her husband, spent years in captivity, then suffered a great poverty, an unhappy life indeed. Mary Rose's other granddaughter, Margaret Stanley, too suffered disgrace and banishment after having indulged in gossip at Queen Elizabeth's expense. Another sad Tudor life, not the joy, wealth, and happiness a royal person might be expected to enjoy. Then Queen Margaret's descendants suffered too. Mary, that tragic Queen of Scots, executed like her cousin Jane, this time with the signature of Queen Elizabeth on her death warrant. Margaret Douglas, whose youthful romance was doomed, and who was imprisoned 3 times in the Tower because of love, not treason, whose son Lord Darnley was murdered. Such tragedy and sadness. Lastly, poor Arbella Stuart, chased, imprisoned, and held for her final days in the Tower, not a traitor, but someone whose sin was marrying for love. The wretched woman refused to eat and died too soon, like her kinswoman before her. I am glad that I was not born a woman of royal blood in those times.